Hey team, I know a lot of you out there are training to run a sub 3 hour marathon and you have that goal of 2 hours and 59 minutes. One of the biggest things that helped me get under 3 hours for the marathon was consistency and just knowing that what you're trying to do is extremely difficult. You can get under 3 hours for the marathon. As we all know, it's 4:16 a kilometer, 4:16 pace for 42.2 kilometers or 6 minutes and 52 seconds per mile for 26.2 miles. So in order to do that effectively, you have to make sure that a higher percentage of each of your miles or kilometers each week is spent training at paces that are significantly faster than that. You have to get to a point where running under 6 minute mile pace or running well under 3 minute and 40 second kilometer pace is very natural for you, and it doesn't happen quickly. Remember, it takes between 3 to 4 weeks for the body to adapt to any stress you're placing on it. So to run 2:59:59, that to me is an elite time. So you may not be able to achieve this in a matter of several months, but more than likely for most athletes, it may take you a couple years to get to that point where you can run 2:59:59. Maybe you're at 3 hours and 5 minutes right now. You getting under 3 hours is going to be much easier for the athlete that say is at 4 hours and 4 minutes right now. So the things that I think helped me the most to run 2 hours and 19 minutes for the marathon and get under 3 hours was running faster long runs. Okay, now I always preach this, how running long and slow and easy is still very important, but what you don't want to do is get in the habit of running long, slow, and easy every weekend. So my recommendation, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're a regular viewer, you already know that I always preach the importance of alternating your long runs, running long, slow, and easy one weekend, followed by a varied pace long run, spending some time running at 6 minute mile pace for maybe a few of those miles during that long run, or running under 4 minute kilometer pace for several kilometers during that long run. Okay, what some of my favorite workouts was running under 6 minute mile pace for 20 miles or 32 kilometers. When I could get to that point running in the 550s per mile at elevation when I was training in Colorado Springs, that is when I knew I was prepared to not only run well below 3 hours, but to run under 2 hours and 25 minutes, around that range. So you definitely have to get to a point where you're not just running 7:30 mile pace or say 4 minute and 50 second kilometer pace throughout your long run. Yes, that's still important to run long, slow, and easy. Just don't do it every weekend. Definitely your speed is absolutely essential. You have to develop your speed, even if you're training for a marathon or an 800 meter. The problem is a lot of times we as marathoners, we get in the habit of running too much mileage too easy, too aerobically. Okay, sure, that's going to build your endurance, that's going to burn fat, that's going to help make sure that you have that stamina to run at very fast paces. But the world's top distance runners are running around 40% of their weekly volume at or below their anaerobic threshold. You know, you're running around 88 to 92% of max heart rate when you're running at your anaerobic threshold. So for the athlete that's trying to get under 3 hours for the marathon, my recommendation is get that tempo or that anaerobic threshold run out toward around 16 kilometers in distance or 10 miles. Over the years, that's what I really worked on that helped me to go from a 2:43:36 PR to 2 hours, 19 minutes, and 35 seconds for the marathon distance. I was always, I would start off running between 3 and 4 miles and get used to that particular intensity and that duration. And then I would extend that out to around 8 to 10, sometimes even further than 16 kilometers. Okay, so be patient with your buildup as you train for this sub 3 hour marathon, but get to a point where you can extend that anaerobic threshold run out toward around 10 miles or so. Key workouts: 6 1,600 meter reps, 3 3,200 meter reps, running those reps at around 5K to 10K race pace on the track. Early on in your build-up, give yourself 3 minutes of recovery between each one of your 1,600 meter reps. And then when you're very fit, when you're like midway through, say, a 16 to 24 week build-up, focus on giving yourself only 45 seconds to 60 seconds of recovery between each one of those 1600 meter reps. With the 3200 meter reps, it would work again. If you're trying to break a 3-hour marathon, if you can work to get those repeat 3200 meter reps at around 12:10 per rep, or around 6:05 mile pace, you want to first, again, start off very conservative. It might mean running each one of those reps at say 13 minutes to 13:05 per 3200 meter rep at the beginning, and giving yourself around 6 minutes of recovery in between each one of those 3200 meter reps. But you do want to get to a point where you're running well below sub 3-hour marathon pace, preferably down toward around your 10K race pace for those 3200 meter reps, and then giving yourself only about 3 to 4 minutes of recovery in between each one of those reps. That is absolutely essential too, because again, you want to increase the intensity of the reps you're doing, but also minimize the amount of recovery between each one of your repetitions that you're doing. That is going to help you sustain sub 3-hour marathon pace, get that 3-hour marathon pace to feel easier for you, less aggressive, and will help you to clear lactic acid more effectively, improve the body's lactate tolerance. You definitely improve that not only by running easy consistently, but more importantly, you improve the body's lactate tolerance by training at VO2 max effort, by training at anaerobic threshold effort. When you're running at VO2 max, when you're doing those, really fast track intervals, repeat 200s where you're running down at 1 mile to 3K race pace, training for the marathon, repeat 400s, running, at 3K to 5K race pace for the 400 meter reps. That's another, doing 16 to 2400 meter reps on the track. Okay, first in the early stages of a buildup, it might mean doing 8 to 10, and then working your way to 16 to 20 reps. The optimal amount of time you want to train for a sub 3-hour marathon, in my opinion, is a minimum of 16 weeks, but more importantly, 20 to 24 weeks. The longer your buildup, the more time you're giving yourself to adapt to the hard training you're doing, the less of a rush you're going to be in your buildup. Like say for an athlete that's trying to break 3 hours in a matter of 8 weeks, it's going to be very difficult if you haven't built a strong aerobic base foundation first. Okay, so I always recommend to athletes, if you're going to focus on a training plan, if you're going to focus on a running course, I've built those on RunDreamAchieve.com for athletes trying to break the 3-hour marathon barrier. I have the sub 3-hour marathon pro running course, which is covering A to Z from the start, everything you need to know in order to break the 3-hour marathon barrier. And it concludes with a 16-week training plan at the very end of the running course. So there are resources on RunDreamAchieve.com that will definitely help you increase your chances of breaking the 3-hour marathon. But definitely working on your speed and building that stamina and strength that you're going to need to break a 3-hour marathon. It's not an easy time to achieve. There are very few athletes around the world that break the 3-hour marathon barrier each year. So you have to get out of your comfort zone often enough to get to a point where you can run 2 consecutive half marathons under 1 hour and 30 minutes each. And also, pacing is absolutely vital. Focus on a negative split if you're going for a sub 3-hour marathon. I would go say like 1:34 through the first half and then come back with a 1:25. That gives you a 2:59 right there. Don't go out in a 1:20 and then be forced to slow down, say like run an hour and 40 minutes the second half. Okay, so you want to be much more conservative in the first half of your marathon. Come back in that second half faster than you ran the first half. Make sure you're paying attention to your nutrition in this race to go after 3 hours. You have to make sure you're practicing drinking. Don't sip during the race. If you have to stop for a few seconds at an aid station to drink the contents of those Dixie cups, do so. It's much better to stop for a few brief seconds to drink, then get back into the race, than to pass the aid stations, disregard that, or to just grab a couple Dixie cups and the majority of those cups, the contents of the cups, are spilling out onto the road when you need to be ingesting them. So make sure that you do that. Focus on running the tangents in the race. Focus on, if there's a right-hand turn, get to the far right of the road, rather than running on the far left of the road or in the middle of the road, running more distance than you need to. So these are some of the things I want you thinking about in terms of training to run a sub 3-hour marathon. I hope these tips and strategies are helpful for you. Feel free to leave me a comment below. Let me know where you're currently at in the marathon distance and what is your current personal best for the distance. Are you aiming for sub 3 hours? Are you already under 3 hours? I'd love to hear that as well. So definitely check out the resources below. These videos. They're there to help you take you to the next level. If you're a coffee drinker, check out the resources below for Run Dream Achieve coffee. We also have that as well for athletes that love different blends of coffee. And if you have any other questions or concerns, leave me a comment. I'll definitely respond to you. I wish you all the best, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.